hockey. Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
Hey, it's a Monday edition, Judd's Hockey Show, which means it is Judd and AJ. Plenty to talk about, including a really entertaining game, I thought, between the Avalanche and the Wild on Sunday afternoon. We're going to get into all that, and also the Wild winning at Vegas on Friday. But before we do, I want to talk to you about Victory Tire and Auto. Why do I want to talk to you about them? Because, folks, they don't want to see you once. You come in, you get your car done, that's it. No. They're into building relationships, and their goal is to serve customers for the long term with personalized, trustworthy, and consistent service. In other words, they want your business for a long time, and they want it because you trust them. They're family-owned, established right here in Minnesota back in 1997. Victory has an industry-leading, get this, 5-year, 50,000-mile warranty on all new parts and labor. Schedule an appointment at any of their 20-plus Twin Cities area locations at victorytireandauto.com. Tell them the Sports Dad sent you. Why? Because you're going to get $25 off any oil change service. That's right, $25 off. You also will get a complimentary multi-point safety inspection with every service appointment. In other words, Victory Tire and Auto wants your business, and they want it for the long term because you trust them. So quality work, genuine care for all of life's miles at Victory Tire and Auto, victorytireandauto.com. All right, Age, let's start with yesterday. What we saw, obviously, the Wild lost in a shootout, a game in which they trailed. They came back to take a lead. The Avs tied it up. A lot to talk about off that game, but if that can be, and keep in mind, they lost in a shootout. Yeah. So if that can be a playoff series, sign me up. Like, if that's what we're going to get, sign me up. Now, I know it's going to be difficult. We'll talk about this. The Avs power play is god awful. And all credit, the Wild killed off 5 penalties. The Avs were 0 for 5. Nico Sturm actually scored a shorty. But in watching that game, that would be, I think, that series now, I would say this. The Wild definitely has a chance. And I don't know if I would have said that the past couple of years, but with Quinn Hughes, with the Avs defensive core, Makar's marvelous, but they're not nearly as deep as the Wild. Obviously, the Avs centers scare you. Right. But all of that being said, if you can give me a second-round series of Wild Avs, I'm buying a ticket for that one.
Yeah, and the thing about yesterday's game that despite the loss in a shootout, I think my key takeaway is they lost in a shootout, but arguably the Wild, their best players, had one of the worst games we've seen from that core of superstars in a long time. Like, Kirill Kaprizov wasn't that effective. Quinn Hughes had an absolute stinker yesterday, in my opinion, besides the assist that he picked up on the Kirill Kaprizov goal that went off of Brent Burns. Matt Boldy definitely had good penalty kill moments, but otherwise wasn't as effective. Like, your most standout players were Nico Sturm. Frankly, I thought Nick Foligno had a pretty darn good debut. We're within a week of it being, within a week of me showing my distaste for the trade initially, but Michael McCarron has sort of impressed me a lot more than he's exceeding what I thought he was going to be through these first 2 games. And so if they're able to force a shootout with this Colorado Avalanche team, that's very encouraging. Obviously, in a playoff series, there will be no shootouts. You're going to reset. You're going to go 5-on-5, basically a 4th period for an overtime session, and you just repeat that until somebody scores the game winner. But the top defensive pairing, Brock Faber, Quinn Hughes, not that great yesterday. I think it was on the first goal by the Avalanche that it was the Quinn Hughes kind of no-look drop pass cycle in the corner that got intercepted by Kadri, who threw it out front to McKinnon all alone for Wallstedt, who beat Wallstedt. That's my biggest takeaway. Like, I think yesterday the Avalanche looked like the better team throughout the course of 60 minutes, but they also got 5 power plays. They didn't convert on a single one of those. So the Wild showed a lot of really good signs to at least get a point. It's just unfortunate that while trying to chase that lengthy gap in the Central Division for that top spot, you pretty much just lose 1 point there. And then that also 1 point doesn't really do you much good against a Dallas team that is still looking pretty solid since the trade deadline. So.
Yeah, and what now? The Wild in the Central Division is 10 points back at Colorado. I think they're 3 points, if I'm not mistaken, now behind the Stars. In the division, and those are three of clearly the best teams.
Yeah.
I will disagree with you on Boldy. I thought he was a monster yesterday. He had 4 shots, 3 hits. The goal in the shootout. Yeah, Kaprizov, Quinn Hughes looked tired again, and I'm concerned that this is just going to be a problem now too. He did not look like himself. Like, he's ordinarily so sharp, and he's still better than most players tired. But like, there is a marked difference in my opinion when he looks really sharp. And the goal yesterday that was Kadri, which by the way, that trade is going to be a problem for the Wild. But the goal that was Kadri feeding it to McKinnon out front, I thought was Faber didn't get back in time because Hughes tried to reverse the puck, and Faber and Hartman, and Faber was lagging behind a bit. So, but all that being said, in the past week you have played Tampa Bay, which had a phenomenal game against Buffalo. I don't know if you saw that yesterday, but 8-7, Buffalo wins, filled with fights. It looked like something from the 90s, or perhaps the 80s. It looked like a little bit of as close as you're going to get in 2026 to the North Stars Bruins brawl in the early 80s at Boston Garden. But you get 2 points against Tampa, you get 2 points against the Golden Knights, and then you get a point against the Avs, and the latter two are both in the opposing building. So you get 5 of 6 points. That's pretty good. I will say this, the thing that stood out to me, I think the most on Friday, despite the fact that the Golden Knights didn't look great, but on Friday and then on Sunday, was how good Philip Gustafsson was in goal on Friday. I thought he was outstanding. And then Wallstedt yesterday was absolutely great. And I found these stats in the Athletic game story off of the game on Sunday. So since Christmas, Wallstedt had been 4-5-2 in 12 games and 11 starts. His goals against 3.95, his save percentage 87.9. The last 7 games and 6 starts, he was 2-4, 4.7 GAA, 862 save percentage, 26 goals in his past 6 starts. And I don't know if the rumors about him being included in trades, because he's a pretty sensitive dude, I think, had affected him or what. But I thought the performance that he came back with yesterday, which was 25 saves in the first 2 periods and 10 power play shots against, all stopped. I thought that was these last 2 games, I think I tweeted this, are what you're going to need. If the Wild's going to win a playoff series, and I don't care which goaltender it is, the Vegas performance by Gustafsson and the Wallstedt performance against the Avs, that's what you're going to need to win playoff games. And that was great to see, especially since Jesper had been struggling a bit and was phenomenal.
Yeah, that wasn't really a thing that we talked about much on this show, I think, leading up to the trade deadline, which was how easily I think he was thrown in and rumored, and for, the Charlie Stramels and, the other prospects that were maybe going to be shifted out for potential deal, even up until that final day on Friday. You had Kevin Weeks tweeting about how among the multiple goalies still involved in trade talks, Jesper Wallstedt was one of them, and trying to land that maybe final top center piece. It makes sense that you'd have to move out a guy like Wallstedt for that, but we didn't talk about maybe the mental aspect, or just like how that impacts him leading up to those days. And now that that's passed, he knows, okay, I'm here at least through the rest of the season. That's probably a little bit of a calming, but I thought he bounced back despite maybe some previous poor performances. I know I can't remember who exactly reported this, but it sounds like maybe the coaching staff wasn't the most confident in him the past couple of weeks since coming back, even since coming back from the Olympic break. But he wasn't necessarily the same goalie we saw earlier in the season, where it felt like he was the better of the 2 goalies on the Wild tandem. But last night or I guess yesterday afternoon, was a great display of just how good of a goaltender he can be when it seems like he's in his zone, his mental stature is there. He was standing up tall. A couple of very key saves. I think it was, he had that save on Natchez, and it kicked out, and then they went down and scored, and that was, I think, the Nico Sturm shorthanded goal. But he just showed how good and effective he can be, and maybe that's why Bill Guerin weighed options. It's nice to have that quality of a goaltender as your backup if something were to happen to a Philip Gustafsson, because if you trade him away, Gustafsson goes down, who knows exactly what it is. You have the unknown of either a Samuel Levi or you get another backup goaltender back, and who knows where that quality is. But it's probably a good problem to have for the Wild moving forward, that they have two goalies that can play at the level that they do.
Yeah, and I do think with what we know about Wallstedt's mentality, that being on the trade block, and he said that, I think his quote post game yesterday, was something along the lines of, you read about this stuff. So he clearly was aware. Like, there's some guys that can tune this out. There's a lot of guys that can't. So yeah, if you can get this type of performance, thing that stood out to me yesterday about his play, and we used to talk about this earlier in the season, and I think it had disintegrated a bit. His positioning again was so good too. Like his positioning was great. Now the Natchez save was incredible because he was basically in the goal for a second, and we just got the one look. I thought he might have actually made the blocker save in the goal. Like I'm like, did that puck cross? But but that being said, these last two games are really what you will need. And on Friday night, Gustafsson stopped 29 of 31 shots, so he was absolutely outstanding. Let's get to your guy, Michael McCarron.
Yeah. I was going to say before that, well, this sort of ropes in. Before we get to that, I do want to talk to you about one thing here that I noticed, my biggest takeaway from yesterday's even shootout loss, which is if you go back through the season history, the season series between the Minnesota Wild and the Colorado Avalanche, you go back to November 28th, their first meeting. Colorado comes to town. The Wild finish that game with a 40.4 faceoff percentage. So they lose the faceoff battle head to head. They re-meet later. December 21st, the Wild lose that faceoff battle with a 44.7 faceoff percentage. And then just, 2 weeks ago, February 26th, a 34.8 faceoff percentage in what was actually a win against the Colorado Avalanche. Yesterday, now that everything is done, the rosters are officially settled. Where do you think they fall in? 56% on the dot. They win their first battle in the faceoff dot against the Colorado Avalanche. That's encouraging, because what was the big talking point and maybe the key thing for us heading into the trade deadline? You have to address faceoffs. Well, not only did it seem like they addressed it against a team that they're going to have to probably battle in the playoffs if they get past that first round, but they won it pretty handedly. It wasn't like 51.5%. 56% is a noticeable margin. And considering how many penalty kills they had to have yesterday, very influential. That was encouraging to me, and that ropes into maybe the point of Michael McCarron, who face-off stats I actually haven't looked at yet. I've yet to see exactly just how good or bad he was on the dot.
Foligno and Sturm combined on like the fourth line to win 5 and lose 3. The key yesterday was Eriksson Ek, 110, lost 7. He won some big ones. So he was at 58.8%. Hartman won 9, lost 6 at 60%. Urov continues to be a complete liability, 29%, 2 of 5, or 2 of 7. But yeah, but what was incredible was, did you look at the faceoff stats on Friday night against the Golden Knights?
No, I haven't.
I wonder if somebody got a talking to, because they looked very respectable in the dot on Sunday. The Golden Knights won 69.2% of the faceoffs. They won essentially 70%. The Wild won 16 and lost 52. They were 30.8%. Eriksson Ek, 5 wins, 10 losses. Urov, 1 win, 5 losses. Hartman, 7 wins, 12 losses. And McCarron and Sturm were 3 wins, 7 losses combined. So I wonder if there was some type of come to Jesus after that. I mean, they won the game, which is fine, but 70%, and then to tick back up to what you just talked about and win 56% on Sunday. And, I'm sorry, but Eriksson Ek and Hartman have to win faceoffs. Like what they did on Sunday needs to be the norm.
Yeah.
Eriksson Ek's too good a player, and he's too scrappy. And this also goes back to, though, what the wingers do, right? Because do the wingers get in there? Because a lot of faceoffs aren't won clean. Do the wingers get in there? What's their compete? But I think something happened after Friday, because I'm sorry, it's great you won, but 70% you lost. I'm willing to bet that there was some a serious tongue lashings about, hey, we got to win these freaking things because you're giving up puck possession consistently. And I still contend, if you do that in the playoffs, you're dead. But if you do what they did against the Avs on Sunday, and again, it's 56%. That's good. If you do that, I think you've got a real chance. And everything against Dallas and Colorado is going to be important. Like every little thing.
Yep.
So I don't care if it's the center winning the draw clean. I don't care if it's the wingers crashing in. I don't care what it is. You're going to have to repeat what you did on Sunday, goaltending wise and face-off wise, I think, to have a legitimate chance to win a long series against the Avs.
Yeah, since coming back from the Olympics, I mean, they've won the face-off battle half the time. 34.8% against Colorado, lost that. 46.3% against Utah. And then you mentioned the game against Vegas, 30.8%. But otherwise, you had that St. Louis game, 51%. And that one was weird because I felt like down to the final stretch there, they were trailing. I mean, I remember vividly at one point you pointing out, oh, look at the face-off stat on the electronic board that ticks around the arena.
Yeah,
and I think they were at like 38% at one point in the second period. The Tampa Bay game, 51.9%. So things maybe adjusting now that they've added the pieces that they think, and maybe Nick Foligno coming in and being able to take a couple extra draws. Michael McCarron, we talked about how he's a good defensive zone draw guy, but you're right. Ryan Hartman, Joel Eriksson Ek, if these are your 1 and 2 centers heading into the playoffs, which now we know they are, I don't think Yurov is going to take that role now just because of how big of a liability he is at this point in the faceoff dot. They have to start winning more draws. And it has to be consistent. It can't just be a one-off, wow, look, he won 12 and lost 6 or something like that. It has to be a consistent, you're getting at least close to 50%, because if you're out there for key stuff, once again, we saw it in overtime yesterday. Joel Eriksson Ek goes out, takes the draw, wins it. Weirdly enough, he's so good at that, and then he hustles off. But where is that the rest of the game for some of these very, very key draws? Because that might swing. One little thing, because you mentioned every small little thing does add up. Line changes, matching, and that granted, that's where it's nice to have like Brodin healthy again. John Hines, I think, did a great job yesterday at times matching his more defensive lines against the McKinnon and Natchez and everything like that. And granted, we kind of have the unknown with how Kadri is going to fit back in for that Colorado team. It's good that they caught him on his first game, because we'll have to see once he gets that chemistry back. Obviously, it's been there from his past time, but
yeah,
a little bit
was
of a
already
turnaround.
back.
Yeah,
it's a problem. It's a problem. That trade, which came really, really late. In fact, it was in the queue, and it clearly was announced after 2:00. That trade's going to be a pain, because his chemistry with McKinnon is so good.
I guess I didn't realize also, this is maybe a little off topic, but still trade deadline related. I realize now why it takes so long. Did you see some of these behind the scenes footages of like them calling the office and confirming the trade?
Yes.
It's 2026. What do you mean you have to get 2 people on a speakerphone and then have one person like read through? Also, you're flipping through pages.
And he's like writing it down. And
why are we not doing this electronically?
And I know they want to get, I don't like, and I get the reluctance, but you would think that there would be a secure means to submit these trades.
Yeah.
And it's just one guy with, I mean, it looks like me with a notepad.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, who, and what I love is when they say, who wants to tell me what the trade is? And then like Matt Sells is like, okay, I'll take care of this. And then they confirm the cap room. The other thing too is, shouldn't you have a system in place electronically that confirms the cap room by itself? Like what's to say that, these are guys like me. Who's to say they don't screw up the numbers and it's like, oh, I guess we didn't have that cap room. What? Well, the trade's undone then? Yeah. So yeah, I did see this, and it's fun to watch the behind the scenes, but it's like, can you not get yourself updated? Like, you should have a cap thing at the league, like between the teams and the league, where you just put a cap thing in and it just says, yes, approved.
Yeah. Has that signing bonus been paid yet? Yeah, it has. What if they messed up and it's not? Like, what happens?
We cheated him.
Back? Yeah.
He didn't deserve it. He didn't deserve it. Yeah, no, I did see that, and it's funny to watch, but it literally looks like something from when I was a kid. Like, it looks like you're watching a trade from like 1977, not a trade from 2026.
It's just a guy on like a Google Chromebook, just has an Excel sheet and he's typing in numbers.
I'm
It's like,
no,
yeah,
but,
that works
but,
out.
But he's just writing it down.
Yeah.
Like he's literally
That might
just,
be better.
He's just having the teams. I'll take an Excel spreadsheet. Mackey's got more up to date software on like the Vikings salary cap than the National Hockey League does on their own damn teams. Let's transition to the new guys. You brought up McCarron, who had a great tip of a Faber shot on Friday. Also had an assist. Made a nice move in front of Wedgwood in the Avs game on Sunday. Had a really good chance. Now this is 2 games, but yeah, there certainly appears to be something more here than there was off the jump. And this guy actually didn't play poorly once the playoffs started, but there certainly seems to be something more here from McCarron than like what Justin Brazeau showed upon joining the Wild from the Bruins. And by the way, Hustadinov looks absolutely fine. I've watched him the last two games. I would take him back in a heartbeat. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is McCarron I've liked. Foligno's going to give you a little bit of juice. Like I don't think he's going to be phenomenal on the ice, but I do think, to your point, can take some faceoffs. A great guy along with his brother in the room. Petrie's not playing. Fabry got scratched yesterday. So among all of the things that we've seen, I would say McCarron is the one guy who definitely has made a quick impression.
Yes. McCarron, his size too just stands out, which I'm sure the people that are going to now push back against like, oh, well, the biggest, I guess, like characteristic is size there. Like that carries something. There was that odd man rush on the penalty kill with him and Trennan, which was one of the slowest moving on man rushes I've ever seen. But he was 4 steps ahead of Trennan at one point, and I was like, you're going to be so far off sides. And then last second, he sort of just does this like, stick my leg out, drag the toe. And he was basically at the face-off dot while staying on side. It was it was a weird rush, but he's shown more than I thought. Like, definitely exceeded expectations. One who I want to see maybe just execute more, because I think there's going to be a chance for him to really impress, especially right now while Marcus Johansson is out. But Bobby Brink at times looked dynamic. I'm not going to say I'm expecting him to be a third line winger who probably can bring some a little grit, maybe a scoring touch at times. But he also right now, we've seen this with I think McCarron might have did this in his first game, or Fabry did this in his first game after being traded, where he sort of just forces his way to the net instead of opting for the pass. And that's I think maybe after a little bit of time with Minnesota Wild, he'll do the unnecessary pass and we'll get mad about it. But for the moment as is, he seems to just drive to the net. His shot, I put it on net a little bit more and maybe you'll find the back, but I thought that he filled in relatively well with Marcus Johansson being out. Obviously, they didn't, find any offense there with him, but I thought he had times where I was like, wow, I didn't expect you to be there. Wow, I didn't think you were going to put yourself in that scoring position. I mean, he was, I think, top 6 for expected goals generated yesterday for the Wild. So he had some opportunities, but if he can actually execute and finish those, that'll be a difference maker. And frankly, a pretty nice pickup for what was initially a very awful trade with David Jiricek.
He did get a really nice, hard to get shot off from around the slaughter circle against the Avs, where he sort of drew the puck into himself and still got off I think partially screenshot. So yeah, I do find it very intriguing, and I'm not completely shocked, but I think the assumption was upon his acquisition from the Flyers is that he would definitely be the third line wing, and that Tarasenko would probably bump up to play on the second line with Johansson out, and that has not been the case. Brink has been on the second line. Boldy has gone from right wing to left wing because he is a left-handed shot, and then Tarasenko is bumped down to the third line. And you texted me yesterday, but again, I'll go back to Tarasenko must do something the coaches love, because just with my own 2 eyes and watching games at the arena for the home games and then on TV, I just don't really see it. But there must be something there. But it is interesting, as much as they've raved about him, that he was the one who was put on the third line, and that Brink, who certainly is a nice player, but he's certainly not an all-star, that Brink immediately bumped up to a line with Eriksson and Boldy, which in some ways is what? Like Hartman, Zuccarello, Kaprizov is 1A, but the Eriksson Ek line is 1B.
Yeah.
So I did find that to be sort of an interesting statement on what they might truly think of Tarasenko as opposed to what they might say.
And potentially trying to just get him mixed in as much because he's an RFA after this season. So they have the task now of seeing what he actually is able to do. And so if they're viewing some of these, final 18 games where it's like, we know we're making the playoffs, it's nice if we get that for, that first round home ice advantage against Dallas. But a guy like Bobby Brink, especially while Johansson is out, it's like, well, let's see what he's got because that's going to affect how we want to maybe attack contract negotiations with him after the season. If you do want to retain him, I'd assume you would want to, considering, the loss in trade value and whatnot that you got for your check and now after acquiring Brink. So more of just trying to, get him up to speed as quick as possible, see if you can unlock something there because I don't think he was necessarily the most prolific offensive player for his time in Philadelphia. But yeah, I mean, second line minutes, if he continues that and can show us a little bit more, start clicking and find some chemistry with Eriksson Ek and Boldy. I mean, Boldy is now also a player where, and we've talked about this since kind of rising to that superstar talking point, he can drive his own line. He should make players around him better. I think in the case of Marcus Johansson, that's been most of this season. Can he now do that with Bobby Brink? And Bobby Brink, this might sound uneducated because I just don't watch the Flyers too much, but has he had a player like that in Philadelphia to maybe help elevate his game? I'm not sure. Now he's got it in Minnesota as he's on the opposite wing of Matt Boldy. Let's see what he can do.
I'm curious to see too, and we don't know because we're assuming it's a concussion. When Johansson comes back, he obviously goes back to that second line. I mean, they are going to have, and guys always get hurt, so this will change, but they are going to have some very interesting, I shouldn't say, they're going to have some interesting, not very, that's too strong. They're going to have some interesting decisions to make about who is up and down for games. Fabry was scratched yesterday. Sturm, it's funny, Sturm's now playing, I think, very rejuvenated since he basically has been told you're probably on the precipice of losing your job. He was playing wing on Sunday instead of center with McCarron at center. Nick Foligno, I like what he brings. I feel like there's this feeling that he is just, he'll be scratched, but I'm not so sure about that. He's a veteran presence. I really like that. So it'll be intriguing when Johansson, assuming he comes back soon, and Marcus Foligno comes back soon, who does get scratched. I will say this, unless, again, there's something incredible, I would scratch occasionally at least Tarasenko. I think that unless you don't like the guys you just got, I think there's a very good case to be made that Tarasenko, and at his age and with what he brings, he could be the odd guy out, and I wouldn't be offended at all. So, and I think Fabry's a guy, he played okay. He's played okay, but I think at this point in time with his lengthy, unfortunate injury history, he's just a guy. So when you go down the available players, if everyone is healthy, I gotta think that Tarasenko and Sturm are guys who've been around all season who are ripe to potentially be scratched, unless you think that Sturm is so valuable on the PK, and you might, that you don't scratch him.
Yeah, well, when healthy, I think your fourth line is almost certain. Either both Foligno's and McCarron, or, I mean, Sturm right now is on the wing, so he would be the one I think you'd maybe bump out. But at the same time, I think when everybody's healthy, the real question is that rotating, revolving door of a third line wing spot. And I don't think that's Sturm. I think, and you can't bump like a Tarasenko or a Bobby Brink down to the fourth line just because they're not going to play that type of game. So somebody who maybe is more skilled is probably going to have to sit out. It is probably Tarasenko, or is it, a Bobby Brink? Is it as much as I don't want to say it, a Urov, if they'd feel like he's not going to be as good in the faceoff dot, then they would rather sit with one of their wingers, because then McCarron might bump up to that third line faceoff position. Sturm slots back in on the fourth line. Then you have what they think is probably good faceoff percentage, and then I don't know. It's tough. I think it's probably Tarasenko or Brink might slop out there. I know Brink is getting the second line minutes now, but I just think, I don't know. If they don't get impressed by him once people get healthy, then it's kind of like, do you want to go with the savvy vet, or do you want to go with the guy you just acquired from Philadelphia, who's the hometown kid and all that stuff. We've seen this coaching staff time and time again lean towards keeping a veteran in the lineup. So I just think that's probably where they go.
Interesting. Yep. Speaking of decisions, some decisions, as AJ just said, are interesting. Some are easy, and this one is easy, and that is where you want to go for a great burger, a great meal, and that, of course, is Parlor. 3 locations. First of all, right down West 7th from the arena. So if you're going to a Wild game, stop at Parlor there. It's a easy walk, great food, great cocktails, great drinks, great service as well. The OG location is in the North Loop in Minneapolis. And also their location that opened last summer, I believe it was, in Excelsior now, the newest addition to the lineup at Parlor. There's a QR code in the corner of your screen right now. If you scan that, you can make a reservation. Again, it's great for before a Wild game. It's great for a date night. You are going to be not just impressed with the service and food, but in particular, right there, that's the first star of the game. The Parlor Burger, I'm telling you right now, the best burger in town. So check it out. Parlor, again, 3 locations, St. Paul, North Loop in Minneapolis, and also Excelsior. Scan the QR code and make your plans to stop at Parlor today and try that burger. You will not be disappointed by that. Let's wrap up here by talking about something that could become important if and when the Wild almost certainly will have to get past Dallas. But if they match up against the Avs, what are we to make of this? The Avalanche power play, 0 for 5, as we talked about on Sunday. Mm-hmm. They entered the game on Sunday 28th of 32 teams in the National Hockey League, conversion rate of 16.2%. Last season, the Avs were 20.8%, 17th. Mid-pack, so a little bit surprising that it wasn't better, but a hell of a lot better than 28th. Now, I went back to 2021-22 when Nazem Kadri helped them win a cup. In the regular season that year, Nazem Kadri had 8 power play goals, and the Avs were 6th at 23%. So his inclusion on the power play actually might help. But I thought the TNT studio show had a great point between periods, and that is the Avs power play is way too predictable. Like, it's really good. Yeah. It's high end. But if they don't start to move guys around, like, you know where McKinnon is going to be. And I'm sorry, Nathan McKinnon is one of the best players in the entire league. He's unbelievable. But all of that being said, I don't know that he's Ovi when it comes to the power play. Like, Ovi's got that office space, right? Yeah. And you know where he's going to be, and nobody for how long? 20 plus years can stop it. McKinnon has his office as well, but it's almost like teams figure it out, or he just doesn't have that same thing on the power play. Yep. So this is a key. If the Avalanche with Kadri get their power play right and start to mix things up, they become incredibly difficult in the playoffs. If they don't, and I'm not saying that there's a ton of power plays, but the Wild took, 5 shorthanded situations. That technically should be death.
Yeah, right.
And they almost won the freaking game. So, as the playoffs draw near and we talk about the potential matchups, especially if the Wild can hopefully get past the first round for the first time since 2015, I think the Avs power play deficiencies are a huge factor. And the fact that they are 28th, it's inconceivable a team that talented can be that bad when they're up a man.
I'm a little nervous as to how much they might be able to fine-tune that now with Kadri back on that top power play unit, because he does add that scoring touch. I mean, he's not the same player he was in the year that you were referencing when he had those 8 power play goals, but he still brings something and elevates that top power play unit. That being said, I mean, if you look at how teams and trends have gone over the past couple of seasons, if a team struggles on the penalty kill, they're not going to just magically fix that midway through the season. If a team struggles on the power play, despite like the Wild adding a Quinn Hughes mid-season like we saw this year, that doesn't just magically change overnight. I'm almost leaning towards they're going to improve because I think they simply have to, but because of how stuck in a system they are, where it's like we have Nathan McKinnon, who's a top 3 player in the world, we have to kind of feed it to him. Even Marty Necas, who plays, I think, on that left defensive slot, who kind of drops down for the one-timer. They, like you said, we know where the puck is going. And if we can see that on TV, I'm guessing the players on the ice sort of game plan and know where the puck is going. They're going to take steps to like prevent those scoring opportunities. So I would almost think it might improve a little bit, but I don't think it's going to ever become this super deadly, lethal power play. They might have games, don't get me wrong, because now through the final rest of the season, like they're going to play some bad teams at times. So you're going to probably have those nights where it's like they converted 3 for 4 on the power play. Oh my God, they're finally well tuned and clicking. This Avalanche team is going straight to the Stanley Cup final. I would imagine though, when they face the teams that are in the playoffs, teams that are, in that upper tier of the standings, they might still struggle. So I'm not as maybe concerned about that as others. And what we've talked about before, how much do you think if that game was played a month from now in April when it's the playoffs, how many of those penalties actually are going to get called? I don't think it's 5. I don't think they're going to have 5 opportunities on the penalty kill or on the power play, because the playoffs, it's just simply a different rule book. So, I'm not as worried about that as maybe some other people are heading forward.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just amazed how bad it is.
Oh yeah, crazy.
That's
right?
what gets me. Like that. That's the thing. You could take 5 penalties and still have a chance to beat the best team in the entire league, which has all this firepower. Which is, I mean, it's great if you're the Wild. It's ridiculous though. All right, we're done. Plenty more episodes to come throughout the week, including Jesse Pierce, of course, joins us on Wednesdays. But lots to talk about as the Wild now returns home for, I believe it is a 4-game homestand starting tomorrow night against the very difficult Mammoth. He's AJ, I'm Judd. Thanks for watching, as always, Judd's Hockey Show.